So the higher numbers are not completely out of the rule there. But Ahmed, this is to you. And after India, if there's anything that it really is Pakistan, and we are hearing about higher production numbers there. What's your sense on the demand supply, and what kind of a surplus is Pakistan looking at?
I would say last year Pakistan had a crop of 1.1 million ton. Our normal consumption is like 700,000 tons. But last year was incredibly like low prices. Just to tell you, like DC chickpeas was being traded at a level of $320 at a time, and yellow peas was being sold at 380 to 390,000 tons. The 380 to 390 dollars. So I would say 100,000 ton of yellow peas plus an increased demand from Iran. I would say our demand was last year about 850,000 tons, and that should have a carryover of 250,000 tons as compared to last year. Now coming to the current crop, the rule of the book says if we don't get rain before 15th of January, we lose crop on a daily basis. We got our first rain on the first week of February, and I feel that it was not very, it was only a little rain, and it was quite late. So my hope is that the chances of having a big, getting an improvement in crop is very, very little, and we should get a crop of probably 300,000 tons. So the demand and supply says that 300,000 tons plus 250,000 tons of last year carryover, we should still require 150,000 tons to import this year.
Sanjeev, the next question obviously comes to you then.
No, but before that, I just want to know from the Indian panelists that compared to last year, is there an increase in the chickpea crop? Substantial or?
Are you bothered by the imports that they might do?
Well, it does, because I come from Australia, and a lot depends on what happens in India and Pakistan. Yes.
Little bit.
A 6% increase.
Little bit increase, but it is deficiency because last year the import was around 550,000 ton. This year import, if we include a vessel of old crop for 30,000 ton, this year the import is 120,000 ton. So ultimately there is a less, 420,000 ton is a less import. So it is compensated by the, in nutshell, it is equal to last year if we add or minus Australian crop.
Okay. Well, in Australia, we've had a fairly large crop. The year previous to 2013 was a record crop of over 700,000 tons, and the year gone by in 2013, it was just over 500,000 tons, which are historically large figures for Australia. But this year, being a little different in the previous years, the consumption in terms of exports and all used to be to India and to Pakistan and all. But this year, a lot has been left behind only because the demand coming from India and from Pakistan has been not as buoyant as what in previous years. So we are talking about, as of today, as of 31st of January, there's a carry forward stock, just in my estimation, of about 350,000 tons of chickpeas. And the way things are going in India and Pakistan, yes, keeping in mind and the figures that Ahmad says, that there would be an import of 150,000 tons. But just in case if that doesn't match up, then there could be a substantial carry forward stocks into a new season of October 2014.
Fair point. You know, when we are talking about these kind of high crops in Pakistan, and there's less export happening from Australia as well, I just want to go back to Gran Sekhar's slide that he was showing some time back, and he was talking about prices of 3,500 perhaps coming into this year. Mr. Jindal, how firm are you? How much do you believe that we could see 3,500 rupees coming in for the chickpeas in India this year around?
I think I'm quite bullish for the price may go up to 36,000, 35, 36, or maximum 3650 around after July and before Diwali. And the main reason is last year, if we see, it is not only chickpeas. There are Russian Kabuli chickpeas. In 2012, the price opened $925. In 2013, suddenly the price crashed to by even 100%, say $430 C&F, and around 100,000 ton came from Russia for Kabuli chickpeas, which compensated all the flour mills. They prefer even at a $20 higher to buy the Kabuli chickpeas to get a better output for their flour. Secondly, this now because of inflation, government allows and make a lot of advertisement for the yellow peas, dal yellow peas now, which is little bit bitter in taste. Now every south people and east side people, they like the flour of yellow peas and dal, being its bitter taste, being is familiar to the taste, now it's well consumed. So the reason it was down because the other crop was coming.
Sure. Neerav, this one is to you. The arrivals on a daily basis in the Indian markets have picked up in Maharashtra and in MP as well. What kind of numbers are you looking at? While the longer term, after June, July, Mr. Jindal pointed out that we are looking at higher prices. But in the near term, do you see the pressure continue?
See, Maharashtra is the pressure point this year. Maharashtra is the game changer this year, according to us. The clear increase in production is coming from Maharashtra this year. So I think we've already started harvest there. But the arrivals will pick up and prices would be under control, I would say. But I do not agree with certain market participants who also feel that the markets would really fall a lot because buyers are hand to mouth, and I think the price has factored in the overall bearishness that's been coming in from last year and overall the reasonable supplies that are lined up this year also. So it's going to be I would say a range, but no major bullishness coming in the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, I think maximum arrivals would be comes in March or April. Then after there is no bullishness and price will be range bound. Around this year will be price will be 3,000 to 3,500.
Mr. Jindal, you want to add a word to that?
Further, I want to add, this year the government has increased minimum super price by 100 rupees to 3,100 rupees. Now, because of election pressures in June, the government are started buying from Maharashtra, and they will buy a huge quantity in MP and Maharashtra, as well as they will try in Rajasthan even. So, if they buy at 3,100 rupees per quintal from the farmer, in the short terms, it will not come down. But in the long term, after June or July, it will be a good boost to increase the prices.
Well, last year we did see prices quite depressed, but this time it has been around. It is almost trading around that 3,100 mark. But while we may not be importing too much, do you see with the good crop that we have in hand at this point in time, there are some chances of exports? There have been a lot of policy changes at HAM. Of course, it would happen only after elections, but do you see that movement coming in?
Chance for?
Exports.
No, not at all. Government cannot take such kind of risk because opposition people, whenever the prices goes up because of actual shortage, the opposition people will start making this, and there is no chance at all to export.
All right. Coming to you, Sanjeev and Ahmad, what's your sense really when it comes about the international markets? We have spoken about the Indian expectation and sense of demand and supply. Is there a global picture, Sanjeev, that you're working with? I mean, of course, Australia is not exporting as much this time around, but globally, how are the numbers?
Well, globally, again, from Australia's perspective, if we talk, we look at the markets of the Indian subcontinent, which is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Dubai. We know what Bangladesh and a market like Dubai imports, but India and Pakistan are the variations which really depend on a lot of figures. But going according to this current season, I think if we say that we have a stock as of today in Australia of 350,000 tons, maybe another 80, 100,000 tons goes to Pakistan. There would be, to Bangladesh. There would be more that goes into Dubai and maybe a bit to Pakistan as well. But I still think that there'll be a carry forward stock of about 100,000 tons. But what I also would like to point out, Australia's chickpea crop has been growing over the years, and it's become yield-wise much better than what it was, thanks to the efforts of Pulse Australia and the growers also finding it very conducive. But what we as an exporter from Australia look towards, that in case if we have the potential of a 1 million ton crop, how are we to get the chickpeas out of Australia? And I think I can share with everyone that there's a new terminal, a bulk terminal that has come up in Newcastle, And earlier on, we had only one terminal at Newcastle, which was the Grain Corp terminal, and methyl bromide fumigation was not allowed. And now we have another terminal, which probably will change the perspective of bulk vessel chickpeas out of Australia. And I'm just happy to say that the new terminal is just commissioned, and we have loaded the first vessel out of that terminal. In fact, it's just completed loading today, not of chickpeas, but of durum wheat going to Italy. But it just gives a different perspective, and very happy to note that that vessel of wheat we actually have fumigated with methyl bromide, which is very, very important for exports of chickpeas to India, because a number of times we've seen in the past is that there has been constraints of exporting or using the Newcastle terminal. But now, having given that option, I think that we are very much more in the foray that in case if there is a very large or potentially large chickpea crop of 1 million tons, I think that there is a lot of confidence in this extra terminal coming up in the heart of the chickpea growing area. I see it as a very, very good long-term phase.
Fingers crossed and thumbs up to the new developments there. Ahmad, this is to you. You also look at the Dubai numbers there. What's your sense coming in from that part of the trading numbers?
Well, Dubai is pretty, as Sanjeev said, no, Dubai, Bangladesh is pretty predictable. I mean, they have a constant demand of 50 to 60,000 tons a year. There are 2 to 3 millers who are running, and they will buy continuously. I mean, fluctuation comes from Pakistan, where things can go crazy. Like we were in a situation where we had a very big crop, and then we are in a situation where we need a lot of chickpeas. So Dubai is a pretty stable market. I would like to add something on Pakistan demand. Sure. I mean, like people say that we have to buy 150,000 tons and things can get a little crazier, but they don't understand is that we have a whole year to buy this product. And one more thing is that we have a carryover of 250,000 tons. And this carryover people are holding like for 1 year. And this is bought at a very lower levels. So once the prices move up, there is a very big tendency that they will come to sell, and that will put a brake on the prices. Secondly, like this is a desi chickpeas which can have a weevil. So I mean, like they have been storing it for 1 year. So why will they not sell once the prices have moved up? They have got their level of share.
So that's a fair point that you've made there. But I want to come back to the Indian aspect yet again. So we are talking about the next 3 months of a consolidation in prices in chickpeas in the Indian markets. The elections are on, the Indian rupee is very stable. But do you think that the crude could be a spoiler here because the prices are at a 4-month highs, and that would ultimately find its way into fertilizers and free trades?
I think crude would not have much impact on the chana, because no, we are not able to export chana. So ultimately, in a way, when we are say depressed in prices, no, export cannot help us improving the prices. So I don't think that is the situation here.
Vikasji, this is to you then. How do you see the overall prices of other peas, chickpeas, pulses also impacting? Because when we talk about the pulses as a scenario, the desi chickpeas do take some impact from the other dals as well.
Price of desi chickpeas will depend on other commodities, other pulses, and if other pulses is higher in prices, then desi chickpeas is also be increased or support other pulses.
Chana, for chana, the effective commodities is such as peas and Kabylie chickpeas only. But little bit it gives effect if the tur prices and mackerel prices are on higher side. Since last 2 months, the prices of tur has gone little bit up by 10%, but the prices of black mackerel has gone by around 20-25%. So it will give a little bit boost, but we have to see the sentiment. Sentiments will come only after 2 or 3 months. What I heard from Mr. Ahmed, that in Pakistan comes inflation and also increase inflation. I remember in 2012 when there was a rain harvest, and the crop was badly damaged in Australia, and a huge production in Australia. So we were thinking the prices might come down. There is no buyer at all. when only suddenly the Pakistan started buying from June 2012 and just he changed the game. Now, after getting this 150,000 ton buying from them, what I was discussing with Mr. Sanjidu in the morning when we were taking breakfast, the crop was 525,000 ton this year in Australia, and their local sitting demand and the local consumption comes around 55,000 ton. It comes to 470,000 ton, and 30,000 is their carryover. So totally it is 500,000 ton available for this year. So far they have exported 150,000 ton, out of which 120,000 came to India. So now they have in nutshell, they have only 350,000 ton. If Pakistan buy 150,000 ton and Bangladesh other buyer, and suddenly after May or June India may buy, so before the new crop, I think Australia crop will be over, might be over.
Sanjeev is keeping his fingers crossed for that one. But Emma, do you want to answer to that? Because
Well, I mean, Pakistan has been like that, no? I mean, we have been the game changer. I mean, then the reason is that, like, crop in Pakistan, no, for desi chickpeas is basically the area which we are using for desi chickpeas is totally dependent on rain, no? We don't have a irrigation system on the on those places. Wherever we have irrigation system, farmers tend to use wheat, tend to grow wheat over there as they get a better output and they get a better price. So because of that, it always has to be like that. No, we get the rain, we get a good crop, we have a capacity to produce 1 million, 1 to 1.1 million. We don't get rain, then we go down to 300,000.
so it's pretty much on the weather that we will have to look out
we
for.
are totally dependent on that.
Sure. Neerav, you do a lot of surveys as well. What's your sense on the sowing pattern that we have seen in last 3 years, and what's your sense going forward?